The human envoy had never seen a place so quiet. The galactic palace was vast, made of white stone and soft glowing light. The ceiling was high, disappearing into shadows. Tall pillars lined the hall like silent guards. Every sound echoed, even the slow steps of the visitors walking across the smooth floor. The human stood among many alien delegates, his hands folded behind his back. His name was Elias, a simple man from Earth, chosen not for strength, but for calm words and patience. He wore a plain uniform, no medals, no weapons, just a small symbol of Earth on his chest. Around him stood beings from dozens of worlds. Some were tall and thin, others heavy and armored. Many had eyes that glowed or skin that shimmered. They whispered in strange languages, careful not to be heard. Everyone was waiting. The far end of the hall sat the throne. It was empty. That alone made the air feel heavy. The queen of this empire never made others wait without reason. When she delayed, it meant she was watching, listening, judging. Elias swallowed slowly. His heart beat faster, but his face stayed calm. He reminded himself why he was here. Earth was new to the galaxy. Humans were still seen as weak, emotional, and unpredictable. This meeting was important. One wrong move could damage Earth's future. Minutes passed. Then, without warning, the lights dimmed. The whispers stopped. Every alien straightened. Guards along the walls lowered their weapons and knelt. The floor itself seemed to hum as if the palace had taken a breath. Elias felt it too. A presence. Not loud, not violent, just powerful. The queen had arrived. She did not walk through the main doors. Instead, a side passage behind the throne opened silently. A tall figure stepped into the light. Her form was graceful, her movements smooth like flowing water. Her crown was simple, yet it shined brighter than any jewel. She was beautiful, but not in a simple way. Her beauty was calm, controlled, dangerous. Elias did not turn. He knew better. No one was allowed to look at the queen until she took her seat. She walked slowly past the throne. Then she stopped. The queen did not sit. That was wrong. Elias felt a strange tension in the air. Even the guards seemed unsure. This was not how the ceremony usually began. The queen turned her head slightly, her eyes scanning the hall. Elias felt a sudden wave of exhaustion. Long travel, endless meetings, so many rules, so much fear. Without thinking, barely louder than a breath, he whispered to himself, "The queen is beautiful." The words were soft, honest, human. The effect was immediate. The hum of the palace stopped. The guards froze. Alien eyes widened in shock. Some delegates stepped back in fear. No one was allowed to speak during the queen's arrival. No one. Elias realized what he had done. Cold ran down his spine. He tried to stay still, tried to pretend nothing had happened. But his heart pounded so loudly he was sure everyone could hear it. Then he felt it. Warm breath. Close. Too close. The air behind him shifted slightly. Slowly, carefully, Elias became aware that the queen was not on the throne. She was standing directly behind him. He could feel her presence like a shadow. It's not threatening, not angry, just there. Time seemed to stretch. Elias did not move. He did not turn. He did not speak. The entire hall waited. Finally, a calm voice broke the silence. "Human envoy Elias," the queen said softly. Her voice was smooth, steady, and clear. It carried icily across the hall. Elias closed his eyes for a brief moment, and then he opened them and bowed his head. "Yes, Your Majesty," he said, keeping his voice steady. There was a pause. The queen leaned slightly closer. "Tell me," she continued, her tone unreadable. "Were those words honest?" The question echoed through the palace. Every alien waited for his answer. Elias took a slow breath and chose truth. "Yes," he said simply. Silence filled the hall after Elias spoke. Yes, that single word seemed to hang in the air, heavy and fragile. No one moved. No one breathed too loudly. The Galactic Court had seen wars begin with less. The queen remained behind him. Elias felt her presence like a quiet storm. He did not turn, kept his head bowed, his hands steady at his sides. Inside, his heart was racing, but his face showed nothing. The aliens around them were frozen in fear. Some believed the queen would strike him down for such honesty. Others feared something worse, mercy. Mercy from the queen was rare, and when it appeared, it often changed the balance of power. The queen straightened slowly. She took a single step forward, her shadow moving across the polished floor until it stood beside Elias. Only then did she turn and face the court. "Rise," she said calmly. The guards obeyed at once, though their movements were tense. The alien delegates lifted their heads, eyes fixed on the queen, waiting for anger, punishment, or command. But the queen did not look angry. She looked curious. Her gaze returned to Elias. For the first time, she studied him openly. A human, small compared to many others in the hall. No armor, no visible strength. Just quiet courage and tired eyes. "You spoke without fear," she said. "Or without thought?" Elias swallowed, but answered honestly. "Both, your majesty." A low sound passed through the court. Not a laugh, not anger. Something uncertain. The queen's eyes narrowed slightly, not in threat, but in focus. "Humans," she said, her voice calm, "are known to hide their thoughts when power stands near." Elias lifted his head just enough to meet her gaze. "Some do, some don't." The queen studied him for a long moment. Then unexpectedly, she smiled. It was small, almost unnoticeable. But it sent a ripple of shock through the hall. "She smiles," someone whispered in disbelief. The queen raised one hand, and the whisper died instantly. "Honest words," she said, "are rare in this place." She turned toward the throne at last, and sat down slowly. The moment she touched the seat, the palace hummed again, as if relieved. "Human Elias," she continued, "you spoke truth without request. Do you know the price of truth in this court?" Elias nodded slightly. "Yes, your majesty." "And you still chose it?" "Yes." Another pause. The queen leaned back, one hand resting on the arm of the throne. "Then answer me this," she said. "Why?" Elias took a breath. This was not in any guidebook. No one had prepared him for this question. "Because lies feel heavier," he said after a moment. "And because fear should not decide what is said." The court stirred again. Many aliens shifted uncomfortably. Fear ruled most of their lives. Fear of the queen, fear of each other, fear of losing position. The queen watched them closely. Then she spoke words that no one expected. Levis gasps echoed through the hall. The guards hesitated. The queen's eyes hardened just slightly. "All of you," she said. Now, one by one, the delegates backed away. Guards withdrew to the walls, then through the doors. Even the highest alien nobles left without protest. Within moments, the vast hall was empty, except for the queen and the human. Elias stood alone before the throne, the silence now deeper than before. Without the crowd, the palace felt even larger. "You are not afraid now," the queen observed. "I am," Elias replied. "But I am still here." That answer seemed to please her. "Sit," she said, gesturing to a low platform before the throne. Elias hesitated only a second before obeying. Sitting before the queen felt more dangerous than standing, but he trusted her command. "You praised me without knowing who stood behind you," she said softly. "Most praise me because they must." "I didn't mean to speak aloud," Elias admitted. "But you did." "Yes," the queen leaned forward slightly, her voice lowering. "Humans," she said, "are strange. You fear power, yet you speak to it as if it were equal." Elias looked up. "We believe respect means honesty." The queen held his gaze. For the first time in many years, something stirred within her that she did not name. Then she said slowly, "You will speak again, not just to me." Elias felt a chill. "To whom?" The queen smiled, this time openly. "To the galaxy." And far beyond the palace walls, something old and careful began to shift. Elias did not answer right away. "To the galaxy" were words heavy with meaning. He had been sent as a quiet envoy, not a voice for empires. Yet the queen watched him as if the choice had already been made. The palace felt different now. Without the crowd, the air was calm, but intense, like the moment before a storm. Soft light flowed across the white stone walls. Every sound felt clear and close. "You misunderstand," Elias said carefully. "I am not important. The queen tilted her head slightly. That is exactly why you are. Elias frowned. I don't follow your majesty. She rose from the throne and stepped down slowly. Each step echoed gently, not threatening, but firm. When she reached the floor, she stood at a respectful distance from him. Not above, not behind. In this court, she said, everyone speaks to protect themselves. Power has trained them well. She circled him slowly, her eyes thoughtful. You spoke with no armor. I had no time to think, Elias said. The queen stopped. Truth often comes before thought. She returned to the throne and sat again, folding her hands. Tell me about Earth. The request surprised him. What would you like to know? Oh, your kind still speaks honestly, she said. Elias considered the question, because silence hurts more. Humans carry pain, whether we speak or not, so we choose words. The queen was silent for a long moment. You are fragile, she said finally. Elias nodded. Yes. You break easily. Yes. You die quickly. Yes. The queen's eyes narrowed slightly. Then why are you not afraid? Elias looked down at his hands. They were steady now. We are afraid, he said. But fear doesn't stop us from feeling or caring. The queen leaned back, studying him. Most species evolve to hide weakness. Humans learn to live with it, Elias replied. Something passed through the queen's expression. It's not anger, not joy, understanding. In this empire, she said, honesty is dangerous. It challenges control. Elias met her gaze. On Earth, honesty builds trust. Trust is rare here, she said softly. The queen stood again. This time, she walked toward a wide window behind the throne. Beyond it, stars filled the sky, endless and cold. This galaxy, she said, has known only strength and silence for centuries. Elias followed her gaze. And fear. She turned slowly. Yes. Fear. The queen faced him fully now. You whispered without fear, because you saw beauty, not power. Elias said nothing. I have ruled many years, she continued. I have heard every careful word, every planned compliment. Yours was different. It wasn't meant for you, Elias said honestly. That, the queen replied, is why it mattered. She raised one hand, and a soft light formed above her palm. Images appeared daily in worlds, councils, fleets, endless debate. They speak, she said, but they do not mean their words. The light shifted. Now it showed humans, Earth cities, crowded streets, simple moments, laughter, arguments, kindness. They speak, she said again, and they feel. The light faded. I want that voice, the queen said quietly. Elias felt the weight of her words settle on him. You want me, he said slowly, to speak honestly, even when it causes trouble? Yes. Even when it angers others? Yes. Even when it puts me in danger? The queen did not hesitate, especially then. Elias took a deep breath. If I speak for humanity, I will not lie. The queen smiled faintly. I would accept nothing less. She raised her voice slightly, though the hall was empty. Then hear this, she declared. Human Elias will remain within this court. Elias stiffened. Remain? You will advise me, she said. You'll speak when others hide. He felt a mix of fear and purpose, and if they try to silence me. The queen's eyes hardened, her voice calm but absolute. Then they challenged me. Silence followed. Far away, unseen by Elias, alien nobles gathered and whispered. News spread fast in the empire. A human had been chosen, and change had begun. The queen looked at him one last time before turning back to the stars. Rest, she said softly. Tomorrow, the galaxy listens. Continue next part. More unique and same 700 words? Part 4. The weight of a choice third person, simple basic English, approximately 700 words. The next cycle began with tension. Elias stood alone on a wide balcony overlooking the inner city of the capital world. Towers of light rose into the dark sky, and flying paths glowed like slow rivers of fire. The empire looked calm, but beneath it, fear moved quietly. Word had spread. Human had been chosen by the queen. Alien nobles whispered in private chambers. Military leaders questioned the decision. Councils argued behind sealed doors. To them, a human voice near the throne was not curiosity, it was danger. Elias felt it in the air. A soft sound behind him made him turn. A tall alien aide approached, her skin pale blue, eyes sharp but respectful. "The Queen summons you," she said. Elias nodded and followed. Throne hall looked different now. The space felt tighter, heavier, filled with expectation. Alien leaders stood in half circles, their expressions carefully hidden. Guards lined the walls, alert. The Queen sat upon the throne, calm and unmoving. "Again," she said. An elder noble stepped forward. His body was tall and rigid, covered in dark armor plates. His voice echoed with authority. "Your Majesty," he said, "this choice is dangerous." The Queen did not react. "Explain." "Humans are emotional," the noble continued. "They speak without control. They weaken structure." Elias remained silent. Another leader stepped forward. "If the human speaks freely, others may follow. Order will suffer." The Queen's gaze moved slowly across the court. "Order built on fear," she said, "is not order. It is silence." A low murmur spread. The elder noble's eyes hardened. "Silence maintains peace." "For whom?" the Queen asked calmly. No one answered. The Queen turned her attention to Elias. "You hear their fears," she said. "Speak." Every eye in the hall fixed on him. Elias felt the weight press down on his chest. He could lie. He could soften his words. He could survive. But that was not why he was chosen. "I understand their concern," Elias said slowly. "Change is uncomfortable." The nobles listened, tense. "But silence is not peace," he continued. "It only hides pain." Some shifted uncomfortably. Elias looked around the hall. Humans learned that unspoken fear grows. Spoken fear can heal. A sharp voice cut through the air. "Your words are weakness." Elias turned toward the speaker. A military commander, tall and scarred, stared at him. "Strength comes from control," the commander said. Elias nodded. "Strength also comes from trust." The room fell quiet again. The Queen rose from her throne. Her voice carried without effort. "Enough." She stepped down, her presence filling the hall. "This human does not replace your power," she said. "He challenges your comfort." She turned to Elias. "Do you accept the weight you now carry?" Elias felt every eye on him. "Yes," he said. "If it helps prevent harm." The Queen studied him for a long moment. Then she did something no one expected. She knelt. Gasps echoed through the hall. The Queen lowered herself slightly, just enough to meet Elias at eye level. "Then I place my trust," she said clearly, in honest words. The nobles froze in shock. The Queen rose again, her voice firm. "This decision stands." Suddenly, a loud metallic sound echoed as the elder noble slammed his staff against the floor. "I challenge this choice," he declared. By ancient law, the hall erupted in whispers. The Queen turned slowly. "You invoke trial?" "Yes," the noble said. "Let the human's worth be proven." Elias felt his heart tighten. "A trial of what kind?" the Queen asked. The noble's eyes gleamed. "Public challenge." "Before the full council?" The Queen considered this. Then she nodded once. "So be it." She turned to Elias. "You will speak before the galaxy." Elias took a steady breath. "Then I will speak truth." The Queen's eyes softened slightly. "Prepare," she said. "Tomorrow, your words will be tested." As the court dismissed, Elias felt the weight settle fully upon him. He had been chosen not to fight, but to stand. In the distance, unseen by most, forces began to move, some in support, others in fear. The galaxy was about to hear a human voice, and not all of it would welcome what it heard. The chamber of the full council was larger than any place Elias had ever seen. It was not built like a palace. It was built like a stage. Rows of elevated platforms surrounded a wide circular floor. Each platform held representatives from powerful world's leaders, commanders, elders. Above them, massive holographic screens floated in the air, showing the same scene across the galaxy. Billions were watching. Elias stood at the center of the circle alone. No armor, no guard, no protection, only words. The Queen sat high above, not on a throne, but on a simple seat of authority. She did not speak. This was not her trial. It was his. The elder noble who had challenged him stepped forward. His voice was loud, practiced and cold. "Human Elias," he announced, "you stand here accused of bringing weakness into the heart of the Empire." Elias remained still. "You claim honesty creates peace," the noble continued. "Prove it." A murmur moved through the council. The noble gestured sharply. "Speak. Convince us why your kind deserves a voice." Elias took a slow breath. He looked around the chamber, at faces shaped by power, by fear, by long years of control. "I will not convince you," Elias said calmly. The council reacted instantly. Shock, anger, confusion. The nobles sneered. "Then you fail?" "No," Elias replied. "I will explain myself." The room quieted slightly. "Convincing is what liars do," Elias continued. "They shape words to control others. I won't do that." Some leaned forward. Others frowned. "I will only tell you what humans learn the hard way." The noble crossed his arms. "Speak!" Elias lifted his eyes to the screens, knowing the galaxy watched. "Humans fight," he said. "We argue. We fail often." No one interrupted. "But we also learn that silence breaks us faster than war." A few shifted uneasily. "When fear controls words," Elias said, "leaders stop hearing the truth, and when truth disappears, mistakes grow." The noble scoffed. "You suggest this empire is built on mistakes?" Elias met his gaze. "I suggest it is built on fear of making them." A low sound moved through the council. Elias continued, his voice steady. "You fear honesty because it removes control, but control without trust creates distance. Distance creates resentment." The noble stepped closer. "And what do humans know of ruling empires?" Elias answered simply. "We ruled ourselves first. That caused a stir." "We failed many times," Elias admitted. "But every time we spoke openly, we healed faster." The noble raised his staff. "Enough philosophy. Words mean nothing without strength." Elias nodded. "I agree." The noble paused. "You do?" "Yes," Elias said. "Words without courage are empty." The noble frowned. "Honesty requires courage," Elias continued, "because it risks punishment." He looked around the chamber. "I am here, unarmed, speaking freely." Silence fell. Elias turned slightly, his gaze lifting toward the queen. She did not move, but her attention was absolute. "If my words are weakness," Elias said, "then punish me." Gasps echoed. The noble smiled thinly. "You offer yourself?" "Yes," Elias said. "If truth has no place here, then silence me." The chamber went completely still.
Ow.
The noble hesitated. Punishing a human envoy on a galactic broadcast would not look like strength. It would look like fear. The noble lowered his staff slowly. Elias continued softly now. "Humans do not fear rulers who speak honestly. We fear those who hide." He paused. "And today I see many hiding." The noble's face darkened, but he said nothing. A voice rose from one of the platforms. "Another leader, older, quieter." "The human speaks plainly," the voice said, "and plainly he stands." Others began to murmur, not agreement, consideration. The queen stood. The entire chamber froze. She did not raise her voice. "You asked for proof," she said. "Here it is." She gestured toward Elias. "He stands without force, without lies, without fear." Her eyes moved across the council. "That is strength." The elder noble clenched his fists but said nothing. The queen turned back to Elias. "You have spoken." Elias bowed his head slightly. The queen faced the council. "The trial is complete." A new sound filled the chamber, not applause, but something deeper, acceptance. And across the galaxy, countless beings sat in silence, hearing something unfamiliar. Human voice, unafraid. The silence after the queen's words was heavier than any shout. Across the full council chamber, no one spoke. Leaders who once commanded fleets and worlds sat still, their thoughts loud but unshared. The galaxy had listened. Now it had to decide what it had heard. Elias remained at the center of the chamber. His legs felt weak, but he stood straight. He had said everything he could say. There were no more arguments to make. The elder noble finally broke the silence. "This changes nothing," he said. though his voice lacked its earlier strength. One human speech cannot undo centuries. The queen turned to him slowly. You are correct, she said. One speech does not change centuries. She looked at Elias. But one moment can change direction. A quiet wave moved through the council. Not anger, not fear. Reflection. The queen stepped down from her seat and walked toward Elias. Every step echoed clearly, carried across the broadcast to distant worlds. You whispered without knowing who stood behind you, she said calmly. Elias bowed his head. Yes, your majesty. You spoke honestly when silence was safer. Yes. You stood alone when power watched. Yes, the queen stopped in front of him. That, she said, is why the galaxy listened. She turned back to the council. For too long, she continued, we have mistaken fear for order, control for peace. Her gaze hardened slightly. We will not change overnight. But we will begin. The elder noble opened his mouth to object. The queen raised one hand. I am not asking, she said. The hall fell completely still. Elias, the queen said, you will return to Earth. Elias looked up, surprised. You will tell your people what you have seen, she continued. Not my power, not my throne. She paused. Tell him the galaxy is listening. Elias nodded. I will. The queen's voice softened. And when humanity speaks again, they will not speak alone. She turned back to the council. This empire will establish an open voice chamber. Any world may speak without punishment. Shock rippled outward. The elder noble stared. That invites chaos. No, the queen replied calmly. It invites truth. She looked once more at Elias. You are dismissed, she said. Elias bowed deeply. As he turned to leave the chamber, something unexpected happened. The elder noble stepped aside. Others followed. Clear path opened. Elias walked through it slowly, aware that billions still watched. His footsteps echoed, not with fear, but with purpose. Far away, on distant worlds, conversations began. Quiet at first, then louder. On Earth, screens lit up with the broadcast. Humans watched in silence as one of their own stood before the galaxy and spoke without shame. Elias returned to Earth days later. He was not welcomed as a hero. He was welcomed as a reminder. A reminder that honesty still mattered. Back in the Galactic Palace, the queen stood alone before the stars. She remembered the whisper. The small, unplanned moment that broke centuries of careful silence. She smiled faintly. Beautiful, she whispered, not to herself but to the future. Across the galaxy, something fragile but powerful took its first breath. Not fear, not control, but truth. Sometimes the smallest whisper is loud enough to change the universe,